on the transcription. All right, there we go. Let's get PowerPoint up there. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome. So I was invited to give a bit of a presentation on the No One Left Behind program and the different subsidies we offer through this program, and then just answer any questions that might be floating around about this, and try and help out however I can to assist you guys in supporting your groups to the best of your abilities. So I need to put that. All right. So with everyone see the slides? Font size is okay. I can send the PowerPoint around afterwards too. There's a couple of links in there that are helpful.
That looks good.
Awesome, excellent, thank you. All right, so just a bit of background info on NOLB if you aren't familiar. So it was a fund that was established back in 2007 to make sure that children aren't denied a getting experience just because of financial hardship. So there is a basic financial needs test applied, and the need of support is determined based on the information that they provide within their application. It's all done by honor system, so we don't never ask them to send us their tax information or pay stubs or anything like that. We take it all in the honor system. The actual needs test that gets used to determine eligibility is a test that gets used for a lot of different recreational programs, and basically anything to do with providing subsidies and supports. It goes off of Stats Canada's low income cutoff. So there's a link at the end of the presentation that you can follow, and it takes you directly to the Stats Canada figures and what they consider to be lower income households. And you can find out exactly what raw numbers we're using to base these determinations off of. In terms of the other support that is available, so there are two different No One Left Behind funds that we have available. So there is the registration subsidy that parents can apply for directly during the registration process. This helps offset their membership fees. Really the cheapest that brings it down to is about $45 if they get the maximum subsidy and there's no group fee applied to it. That all takes effect during the actual registration process. So they submit the application before going through the checkout, and the discount gets applied, and everything happens right on the screen, and they see the amount that originally would be charged, and then the deduction and what they actually end up paying afterwards. So it's all transparent on the screen for them. We also have the No One Left Behind participation subsidy. So this is more the financial assistance for program materials, camping gear, uniforms that they would need, and I'll go into more information about how that gets applied. So these are two entirely separate funds, and if a family applies for one, that doesn't mean they can't apply for the other one. Both can be used at the same time. That's more than okay. Yes, Jane.
With my group, I have some single parents with multiple youth in the program. So and the kids have moved up to sections, and they need uniforms. So can they apply for their 2 or 3 kids, or is it 1 per youth?
You're getting ahead of my slides. Yes, yeah. So
I'm sorry.
It's okay. You're anticipating the questions I was gonna.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll cut to the chase. Yeah. So it's one applicant. So you can apply. How do I phrase it? One application per individual per reason. So when you get into the application itself, you'll see that there's different sorts of things you can apply for. If, like, let's say you needed funding for for uniform. You also need a funding for a tent. Those are separate categories. They can technically apply for them separately.
Okay, so this mom could do one for a beaver, one for a cub, one for a scout uniforms.
Yeah.
And it would be acceptable. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Jump to the next one. So just to kind of get more into detail about the registration one. So like I said before, it is submitted during the application process. You'll see right in when they're on the My Family page and going to set up the registration and select the group for their youth, there is a big green Apply for Subsidy button. And that'll pop up an application form which asks them to put in their annual household income, the number of people living in the household, and the number of people they're intending to register in scouting. And it's really those first two things, the number of people in the household and the income, is what gets used to determine whether or not they're eligible for the subsidy. So then they just check the attestation that they they declare that this is true to the best of their knowledge and submit it, and right away it'll refresh the page and update it and say subsidy pricing is in effect. So that's how they can confirm right there on the screen that they are actually getting the subsidy pricing. An application for NOLB has to be submitted every year. So it can be as simple as just clicking on apply for subsidy again, changing if the income hasn't changed, change it by $1 to just basically resubmit the application and refresh it. And that'll update the application for the family. In cases, now we do see these from time to time in cases where a family they were very eager to register and didn't find out about subsidy availability until afterwards. We are able to, it's not necessarily provide the subsidy retroactively, but we do have the ability to do an assessment of them and find out whether or not they're eligible, and if so, essentially refund them the difference of what they would have had to pay before. So that is an option for families who have basically missed out on the subsidy because they were in a hurry to register but do still qualify. So jumping forward to more information on participation. So these applications, they're submitted separately. These are all done through the Parents in My Scouts profile. So you'll see within My Scouts underneath the register buttons, there's the NOLB fund request option. Have received some feedback that can be a little confusing to parents because it's not necessarily clear that this is different from the registration. So we are looking at relabeling that to specify that it's for the NOLB participation fund, just to make it a lot clearer and make sure we're setting the right expectations for parents. So the assessments for these applications, it's automatic as well for amounts requests of up to $200. Anything more than that, let's say there's a special trip that the group is going on and the family is seeking additional funding for that, they can certainly request it, and we do ask some additional questions at that point and review to determine whether or not that is necessary, and see if there's any other solutions we can come up with for them. So once the application is approved, the funds are sent directly to the group's bank account. We do say within 30 days. Realistically, it's the next week after the application is approved. We submit applications. We submit a report to finance and the accounts payable team every single week, letting them know of what last week's approved applications were, and then they try and get those out by Thursday every week to pay the groups that way. Ever since we've basically moved to having all the groups do all of their banking, like have set up with National, it's become a lot faster with getting these funds to them every single week. So I know we've had lots of questions about, my situation has changed. I gave the information, my income information for last year, but things have changed since then. And, my partners lost their job, and we, obviously don't have the same amount of income as we do last year. My application was denied. Is it possible to appeal it? So we will definitely hear appeals on applications. They can just have the parents contact registration at scouts.ca. We're more than happy to review the application. We will almost always ask some additional questions just to get them to kind of explain, okay, what's going on, what are the, what circumstances have changed, and generally we can almost always, unless it's in a very exceptional circumstance, we can almost always try and find a little bit of support to provide them. It may not be the maximum subsidy that is available for them, but we do what we can to try and support every single family that we're able to. And in terms of whether or not NOLB is available to cover 100% of the registration fee, so unfortunately it is not available to cover all of it. It does cover the majority of the registration fee. I believe I mentioned earlier, $45 is about the lowest you can get the registration fee down to with a maximum subsidy. So if groups are looking to further subsidize their parents, what they can do is they can actually request a group billing code by sending an email to registration. This group billing code allows the parent to basically go through checkout, use that code to pay the balance, and then that amount gets charged to the group, and the group can just pay that back to the national finance team. And whether or not they're making a payment arrangement with the parent, or they just say, yeah, we've got the funds, we're just going to cover their fees. That's something they have the ability to do. Right. Yes, Jane.
Sorry to jump back in again.
That's
The
okay.
group billing code, the GC applies for that, right?
GC applies for that. Yeah. So the parent can't apply for it. It has to be the group that applies for it, typically either the GC or the treasurer.
Right. And then once they give it to us, who applies it to their registration?
So once that happens, what the group should do is they need to give that code to the parent, because then the parent
Okay.
goes in and completes the registration using that
Okay.
code.
Perfect. Thank you.
Welcome. Now, one thing that has actually gotten much nicer with group billing codes, to make it easier on groups, is that groups can now send an EFT to finance. So they don't have to mail that check anymore. They can send it all by online banking. So when we set up group billing codes, we provide all of the information that groups need to be able to make their payment directly by e-transfer if they want to. All right, Jane, your hand is still up. Do you have another question? No. Okay, we'll go to Greg then.
Yeah, actually the group billing code has changed a lot over the years, and it is much more streamlined. I certainly do enjoy that aspect of it. But in terms of calendar timeline for No One Left Behind applications, is there a specific time frame that new parents or returning need to apply by a certain time before funding runs out or the window shuts, or is it an ongoing basis?
Yeah, it's an ongoing basis. Like, we never really close the application for No One Left Behind. The only with participation, if they've already, it's typically once per calendar year. So if a family has already applied for uniform funding for that year and they try again before that calendar year, as long as they haven't maxed out their $200, we will most likely give it to them. But it's typically one application per calendar year per individual per reason.
Yeah, so I was specifically talking about registration subsidies,
Okay.
as opposed to other subsidies.
Yeah. So similar to that, it doesn't really run out. It's not something that they have to, they have a certain window to. They just need to apply before they register.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Mark, I did have a scouter reach out and ask the question. on the participation subsidy.
Mhm.
Can a family apply for it, say for the $200 to go into the group's family fund, so that the youth can draw off that as activities and camps happen, or do they have to apply for each activity in each camp?
That's a very good question. I would be inclined to say yes, they could. Now, like, what is the purpose of something like that, James? Just because, like, is it to basically make sure that family is supported, or that group is able to support it? Because it's the fund is meant to support the family that applies for it.
Yeah. So it
I'm
would
just-
be for the, sorry, yeah, it would be for the family. So
Okay.
I know a number of groups, including my local group, we have family funds. So when we fundraise, a portion of the fundraising goes into that youth family fund.
Okay.
And then they could use that family fund, for going to treetop trekking or whatever the case may be. They can say to the treasurer, hey, like, please pay for this out of our family funds, instead of the family sending an e-transfer for the activity. So that's kind of what how the question came out was, could they apply for the entire amount, have that go into the family fund, and then them draw from that through the year?
I mean, in theory, yes, they could. What would probably be preferred is that, the request, if you had a kind of an estimate of how much you think programming would cost for them for a year, and then applying for that amount. But there isn't anything stopping them from applying for the full $200 and getting that and having that sent to the group to use for those purposes.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Going back historically as a former group commissioner, we were able to actually do that. We have a Scout Bucks system in our group as well. And just because we had $20 camps, $40 camps, and summer camps, we were able to apply for the full amount and have it associated, proving that we already had these events already booked.
I know now this is probably not top of mind for most people, seeing as we're just getting out of the summer, but I know we had a number of questions last year regarding subsidies for camps. So NOLB isn't something at one point it was able to be applied to, like, the residential summer camps at like Halliburton and whatnot. Although that has changed in recent years, and it's not something that the participation fund is meant to be used for these for the week-long summer camps. There is fund these camps are all instructed to basically have that funding available as part of their budget. So I know a lot of them work with the Greater Toronto Scout Foundation to offer this kind of support, and it is available kind of separately. But you can apply for participation funding for camp fees. Like, let's say you booked a campsite for your group for the week, and you're charging $20 a kid or $40 a kid or whatever. It can absolutely be used for that. Yes, Norma.
I have a question about the registration one.
Yes, absolutely.
When people are trying to register and they're applying for this, I'm not sure that they're realizing it's not 100%. And there's a lot of people around that are getting to the pay stage, and it's like all of a sudden they need to pay. And it's like, but you guys said I didn't have to pay because you give me subsidy. Blah, 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 blah. So is there something somewhere that gives an indication of how much people could expect? Like, you could have to pay 45, or you could have to pay 100, or type thing instead of.
Yeah, no, that's a very, very good question. I mean, we can certainly put some verbiage on the registration screens, indicating that the subsidy will not cover the entire fee. I do believe in the FAQ article we have on No One Left Behind that it does mention that it will cover a portion of the registration fee, but not all of it. Just trying to see if it
Yeah,
does.
it's just like with like some of the groups, it's not so big. Like one of our colonies, we have 8 of 15, so they can wait and be in pending forever. But another group, our other colony, like we already have a wait list and there's already 20 in there and there's no more spaces, so they keep getting kicked out with the pending status because they freak out like I have to pay and I didn't realize it. Now I have to scramble to find the money and they're pending, but they don't hold a spot anymore.
Yeah, and I think
So
probably the best way to address that, or at least alleviate some of that stress, is to improve the communications regarding that and the expectations.
yeah,
To your
like
point,
because
Norma, about
even the group billing code, like right now, emails that I sent to registration 2-3 weeks ago are just getting answered now. So if I send an email to ask for group billing code to be able to get this person registered, it's going to take 3 weeks and they're going to get kicked out of the pending line and other people are going to sneak in past them. So yeah.
So I can tell you that group billing codes, because it is my team that deals with that processes and handles all of those, we automatically prioritize them and they get marked as urgent, so that way they get processed at the
Oh,
top of the
cool.
queue. So group billing, because they have such a direct impact on people's ability to register, those are something that we will absolutely prioritize.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, okay. That helps tons too.
Yeah, but I do really appreciate your suggestion at setting those expectations that it wouldn't be 100% subsidy. I think that's a great suggestion, and I'm more than happy to try and take that away and find the best way to implement that.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome, Norma. Yes, Jane.
Me again. The other thing is that I found was a challenge is I've got some families that do not have credit cards. So when they get the billing code and it tells them that they have to pay, or they get they get the No One Left Behind amount, there's like a $45 or whatever that needs to be paid. How can we circumvent that also with the timeline that they're going to get kicked out or be put on pending, or how does that get applied? Because I end up having to communicate with the help center to try and get direction for that. And you know what? We do this once a year and this old brain doesn't remember step by step.
I mean, that is again the challenge with the registration is meant to be completed. You go in, you pick your group, you pay for the group, you're over and done with. Not meant to be a start it, stop it, come back to it later. It can be done that way, but it's as I'm sure you've experienced, it can be rather challenging and it can be frustrating when things don't exactly work out and the spots that you were hoping for have been taken. There's
Like I tried to get multiple billing codes. Like I said, what I foresaw my families, I would need a total of 4. I only got 1, and it had to be applied to that one family I knew directly. And the one person doesn't even have an email, doesn't have a credit card, doesn't have a computer that's working. So I have to phone her to try and get the information, but then she can't get on her computer in order to make it happen. So I'm still waiting to get her kids finalized for 2024.
Yeah, I mean the one thing I can recommend, and I don't know what your situation is with respect to a wait list, but if you wanted to very carefully manage your capacity and kind of set it at one lower than what it should be to kind of hold that spot for that family. In exceptional cases, we are able to perform workarounds to kind of make sure that a kid who's been promised a spot and whose world is going to be devastated if they get it, we are able to get them in. We have ways to do it. Mind you, they can be labor intensive, and it's if somebody's expecting that they're going to get a spot too as soon as one opens up, then it can complicate things. But we always try and do the right thing, and if there's a kid who's been promised a spot, we'll try and make it happen to get them in there.
And that would be registration at scouts.ca if I
Yes.
need to have a concern?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. And yeah, if it's anything that gets in there, and if it's something that you feel needs to get escalated, that's my team that looks after that. So anything that gets escalated to me, and I typically try and do my best to make sure that kid gets a spot in scouting. I don't have any more slides for you guys, but I'm willing to take some more questions if you guys have any. I had to open my mouth. Sandy, yes.
So when a parent applies for the subsidy, does it actually tell them on the screen what portion they're getting subsidized and what portion they need to pay?
Yeah. So it shows up once they select a group. Because it's going to be all groups have different fees. You know, there's some groups up there that are $400 to register for, and then there's a lot of them that are $230. Yeah, there's some that have some very high group fees. Not many, but that's kind of the extreme end of things. So what'll happen is that once they've selected the group, and it'll actually show, let's say their regular fee is $230. It'll show that $230 with a line through it, and then it'll show the $45, which is what they actually have to pay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
This really helps us because we're not the ones applying for subsidy. We're the scouters that are accepting the kids. So when parents come to us with these questions, I don't know what they're looking at. I don't know what it says. So this has been very helpful. Thank you.
That's good.
I
You're very
agree.
welcome.
I get a ton of questions about this. This is awesome.
Well, it's great. I'm glad glad that this was a very helpful session. If we were to do another session like this on a different topic, what is something that that would be worth covering? And don't say the scouting year.
Ah. Mark, just a quick one. Oh, sorry.
I personally would like to be able to see why people are actually pending. I don't know if that falls under you at all, but when we look in my scouts and we see someone's pending, I don't know why. Like, did they just not finish the registration? Are they waiting to pay their portion of what's not covered on subsidy? Or like, I have no idea.
Yeah. And I mean, really what it all comes down to is registration hasn't been completed. And the why is a great question. It could be any number of reasons, like you said, Sandy. It could be they're trying to seek additional funding. Maybe they're going through Jumpstart and they're waiting for that funding to come through to the group, so that way they can use it. There are a number of reasons. It's part of the reason we implemented some reminders into My Scouts. So when a parent doesn't complete a registration, they'll actually get a few reminders letting them know they still have a registration to complete. So if it is something like that, oh, they're waiting for funding to come through, or they just, maybe they were having an issue with payment and they need to come back to it, we do prompt them to go back to that and don't just completely abandon them.
Yeah, I just think as GCs, if we knew the reason, we could address them more specifically. Like if they're having trouble coming up with the rest of the money, some groups have various ways of helping them, or if they just didn't finish the registration they just didn't finish it or whatever. Like I just think it would make us sound a little more educated if we had a specific reason to contact them and say, okay, I see that this is the reason.
Yeah. I understand, Sandy. I think is we don't really know what the actual reason is until we ask the parent. I mean, I could go into a parent's account who's pending it, and I can make all sorts of assumptions, but I don't know 100% why they didn't complete the registration until we ask them. So my recommendation would be is if you've got pending youth in your group, you do have access to the parents' contact information. You're welcome to reach out and see if there's anything you can do to assist them with completing the registration process. And if your group does offer sort of any kind of additional subsidies, you can certainly offer them to that as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
In addition to that, is there a way for us to know, or is there a way for you guys to mark on My Scouts which page of the pending they're on? Like, are they on the first page where they're entering the names and stuff, or on the second page when they're entering the medical info, or the third page? So we know about when it was abandoned, kind of thing, to be in the pending stage?
That's a very good question. I know it's something that you can see on the parent when you're looking at the parent's profile and you look at their incomplete registrations tab. It will say what stage they're at it, if it's roles, if it's just role added, if it's turns accepted. That is something that can be seen. I'm trying to think like from the group side if that's something that you have the ability to peek into.
I don't think so.
I don't believe so either. Yeah.
Like if it could say like pending page 1, pending page 2.
It's a really good suggestion. I can definitely see if there's something that we can do about that, because that is a great suggestion, and I think would certainly make people's lives easier in terms of having more information about where they're at. I can't guarantee anything, but I can definitely take that suggestion forward and see if there's something we can do.
Thank you.
One thing that we used to do was make sure that anyone that was pending, we followed up. And again, because I've been around doing this for a while, with the new No One Left Behind, where the parents or the applicants are doing it automatically instead of having to have the group do it on their behalf. Sometimes there's a little bit of stigma with them having to ask for money. So the only thing that I suggest is saying, okay, we see that you're pending. Not sure where you got in the system, but if there's anything else that you require or additional funding or support, we do have these things in place. Don't ask them if they need it. Just let them know that it's there and available if your group provides something like that.
Oh, that's great, Greg. Thank you.
And specifically, the reason why I'm actually here is I am a group support scouter, so I'm here just to see how things have changed and to be able to offer the group commissioners that I support this information. So when you are sending out those slides, if you could copy me on those, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Martin, did you have a question that you wanted to ask?
No, sorry. When you were talking about other topics for evenings like this, but it's not so much the technical side of it, but I've been getting this week a lot of questions about how best to help out youth with disabilities in the scouting program. And I didn't know if there was someone who might be willing to lead a kind of some information like this, or even where I can point people for resources.
Yeah, I know like there are some resources available on scouts.ca, but I mean they're good. They're a good starting place, but they're not. Yeah, that's a great question. Sorry, James.
It's just by coincidence it's come up a lot for me in the first 3 days of this week, so it's just one of those things.
Martin, I'm pretty sure Kelly Logan is a good resource for that.
Awesome. Thanks, James.
No problem.
Another possible future topic might be just helping our senior youth that are transitioning either into rovers or into a support scouter role. There always seems to be a lot of hiccups about screening requirements and how best to onboard them. I know we run into it on a yearly basis, but we have a fairly decent book to go through. But that might be another topic.
Especially the splitting them off their parents' account, even though they're already over 18, they still need to actually be split, and people forget that step and then freak out. And yeah,
When all their training goes towards their parents, yes.
That's all kinds of fun to try and undo.
I just was looking at the No One Left Behind site on the website, and there's not actually a button to find the FAQ, which is on the help desk site. So it says how to apply, click join, and then apply for the membership subsidy, but nowhere to find out more information about it.
That is very good to know. Thank you very much, Norma. I will bug communications about that and get them to put that link up there. Okay. Add that to
Because
my
you were
list.
saying that there was a FAQ, and it's like, well,
yeah, there is.
okay,
Yeah,
so I'll
there's
go
a great,
look, and
there's a
it's
great
like,
fact.
well,
Here's
see it, but you have the link for it, so it exists, and it's not there easily.
okay. All right.
So,
Well, thank you for letting me know. We'll make sure we get that taken care of.
Mark, as well, is there there's the Respect in Sports subsidy for scouters? Is there anything specific that scouters need to know how to apply for that?
It is. I mean, it's basically the same legal means test that we use for NOLB. So as long as they just submit an email to that RIS subsidy at scouts.ca, it will basically spit out a quick application form. And as long as they meet the requirements, we'll go in and basically just apply a code that they can use for to cover the cost of their training. It's something that is heavily underused. I think there were 2 applications last year. So
I don't think many people know about it. I know when we started talking about this a couple days ago, I had just gone into the website and seen it there. So that's kind of how I knew about it to pass that on. So
there are a number of groups that actually pay for it, so it's not the scouter that's paying in the end. Like our group refunds, like the scouter pays initially, and then we pay it back. And for our youth scouter, if the parents don't want to pay, then our group commissioner gets the code that our group is paying for it still. So
yeah, I just know our group is the same, but I know that there are some groups out there who don't have as healthy as a bank account as others. So for those groups, it's it may seem like a little amount, but it definitely adds up. So it's definitely a great option to have.
I'd be more than happy to triple the number of applications we get this year. So anytime we can help something out and ease their burden, I'm happy to do so.
Okay, so sorry, I didn't catch that. How do they apply for subsidy for the Respect in Sport?
So they just send an email to RIS subsidy at scouts.ca.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I didn't quite catch, you said that the No One Left Behind does not cover anything for the summer camps?
That's right. So it doesn't cover any of the fees for the residential summer camps, like at Halliburton. Those are they use the camps are required to build in some sort of funding into their camp budget, and they often partner with things like the Greater Toronto Scout Foundation to offer additional subsidies for that.
Okay,
But yeah, for any of those, you have to contact the camp directly for subsidies.
okay.
Hey, Mark, a quick question. Is there a way
Yes.
of making the slides and also putting the recording onto like the David Hughes' website so that we can easily access it as everybody can?
Can it be done? Yeah, I mean, it can be done. Is that necessarily the best form for it? I'm not sure, but we can definitely. I think it's great to have this information out and available for sharing.
Because like, I'll be honest, as a teacher with Peel Board, we go to the Peel Board website for everything. It would make sense. We go to our training center and we find these kind of things in there, the recordings that go through it, and also the quick PowerPoint presentation so that we can make that available to everybody. We just tell people, well, if you're curious about it, and then that way we got more people on board, more people, more knowledge, more power.
Yeah, and I 100% see your point. The only kind of I think it's a barrier to that is that like this information is not accessible to parents if it's in the David Hughes Learning Center because the parents can't get in there at all. So we typically want this kind of information to be a lot more accessible. This to me would be we could put this up in the online support center. And it could be attached to one of our help center articles specific like this. It could be attached to the No One Left Behind article where we could have the PowerPoint in there. We could even have this recorded session to upload there as well. I think that would be great to have that information out there.
Yeah, I was just thinking as scouters, it's nice to be able to find these things because sometimes we can't make it. Because I know I started teaching 12 minutes ago, so I'm in 2 meetings at once.
I can, you know what? I don't. I think that I'm not entirely opposed to a kind of resources and library section within Brightspace. I think it's definitely tailored. The software's tailored for that sort of thing, given its original application. I can certainly look into seeing if that's something that we're able to do.
I think that'd be very helpful. That way everybody would still be able to access it, especially like a valuable discussion like this where we got other things popping up. It's always nice to go back, review, say, hey, I was in this meeting. Can you check this out? Because I'm from Tottenham and you guys are from Schomberg. Okay. So, it's kind of nice to have that ability.
Yeah. I know I've seen a number of the coffee chat discussions get uploaded there. So I think there's probably very easily a case made to have this uploaded there. So I'll connect with the e-learning team and see if we're able to put something up there and see if we can get this session hosted there.
Awesome.
Do you have any other last minute questions? We respect everyone's Wednesday night and give everyone 15 minutes back of their time. Excellent. Well, I want to thank all of you for a great discussion. It's nice to connect with everyone and answer some of these questions and get this information out there. And I'd love to do more of these in the future. I think they're very, very valuable.
Thanks very much for your time.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Have a great evening, everyone.
Bye for now.
Bye.